Welcome back to the Dershow. Today is the day that I was supposed to be launching my new book, The Preventive State. And of course, I picked the Harvard Club of New York. I've been associated with Harvard for 61 years, and they sent out invitations with the book, and hundreds of people responded saying they're coming. And then suddenly they send a letter to the people who responded, not to me, saying we've canceled or postponed. We've been speaking to the writer. We'll try to reschedule. They didn't speak to me. I didn't even know about it until I found out from some people who were scheduled to come that they canceled it. They clearly canceled it in order to censor me, or punish me for defending Donald Trump, or punish me or censor me for being critical of Harvard. As you know, I have another book coming out called Trump to Harvard, Go Fund Yourself. Whatever the reason, it was not scheduling, because when we called back and said, hey, let's reschedule, oh, we're really too busy. So there are several hundred people who were going to come, and in order to come, you had to buy a book. So what I want to do is this: I want to make sure that several hundred of you, as a result of this, buy this book, The Preventive State. I want to get the numbers, and then I want to send it to the Harvard Club and tell them, look, you wanted to stop me from having people read my book. You failed. As a result of what you did, I went on my podcast and I urged people to buy the book. And they did. And so, you may have stopped some Harvard graduates from hearing me speak about the preventive state and buying my book, but you didn't succeed in censoring me or canceling me. So please do me a favor and buy the book. I hope we can get 1,000 people today, tomorrow, to buy the book, and then I will not only send a letter to the Harvard Club, but I will publicly announce how many books we've sold and embarrass the Harvard Club for their failed attempt to censor me. We have to fight back. We have to fight back against the New York Times. They have refused to review my book, even though they reviewed all my books, even ones that weren't particularly great. This is my most important book, my best book. They wouldn't review it, not because of the book or the merits of the book, but because I defended Donald Trump. And they don't like that view. And so they have tried to cancel me. The New York Times, we have to get back at them as well. So please, if you're on my side of this issue, just go on Amazon, do it either on Kindle or on regular hardcover, and get the book and read it and let me know what you think of it. And if you want me to sign it, I'll be happy to sign it. Just send it to the Harvard Law School, my name, the Harvard Law School, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 02138, and I will sign it to you and send it back. So enough of a commercial, but this is more than a commercial. This is an attempt to fight censorship and cancellation. So I think I'm on the right side of history, the right side of justice, the right side of free speech. So let's proceed with today's topic. Look, there's a big, obviously, dispute between the governor of California and radical Democrats on the left, people like Maxine Waters, who obstructs justice and prevents fair trials. And the Democrats can do nothing wrong, and the Republicans can do nothing right. There's a big fight between them and President Trump. Trump wins this fight. He's already won, even in the district court. Gavin sought an emergency injunction to prevent the federal agents from being in Los Angeles. He lost, and that's set for a hearing. Whether he wins or loses at the trial court level or even at the appellate court level, he will lose in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will not conclude that the President of the United States doesn't have the authority to exercise his discretion to determine when it's necessary for federal troops to be called in. We're seeing the riots spreading. Let me be very, very clear. This has as little to do with immigration as the anti-Israel riots in universities had to do with Israel. Those are excuses. These are radical anarchists, some paid for, some inspired by foreign. These are designed to bring down America. The radical left, and this has been right from the beginning, this has been the mantra of the Communist Party since Lenin and Stalin, What you do is you use movements in the United States. They use the civil rights movement. They use the gay rights movement. They use every rights movement. They even used Zionism. They were pro-Israel. They were pro-Zionist to try to object to Great Britain. They'll do anything to bring down democracies. And these riots are designed to bring down America. Yeah, today it's immigration. Yesterday it was Israel and Gaza. Remember, the Gaza thing started before Israel sent a single troop into Gaza. It started on October 8th, when Israel was still cleaning up the blood from the 1,200 murdered, raped, beheaded civilians. So don't be fooled. This is not pro-Palestine. This is not pro-immigration. By the way, you go to these pro-immigration rallies, what do? You see anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian flags. These are just excuses. These are professional agitators, and they take with them these panty-raid young kids who are looking for some adventure. And, there's more adventure on the left than the right these days. So, they have two choices. They want adventure. They can join the army or the National Guard. They're not going to do that. Or they can join the rioters. So they join the rioters. So, you have, again, these three groups. I've mentioned them before. The outside agitators, the professionals, the people who are sitting and waiting day and night for an opportunity to rebel against the United States. That's one group. The second group are the legitimate people who really care. You can count them on a couple of hands, but who really care about immigrant rights or really care about Palestinian rights. You can count them, as I said, maybe two hands, maybe only one hand. And then there are the professional agitators, the people who care, and the panty raid people, the young, stupid, uneducated, ill-informed young people who have no idea what immigration is about and have no idea what Palestine is about. They just, anytime there's a riot against the United States, they join it. And they meet people and they have sex, and it's great for their social lives. And, sex is better, I'm told, among left-wing agitators than right-wing conservatives. And so you get young kids interested in expanding their romantic horizons, and they join. They don't have no idea what they're joining. They have no idea what they're doing. 20 years from now, they'll be running hedge funds if you let them in. Not me. If I'm running a hedge fund now, I don't allow in anybody to work for me who has joined these riots and demonstrations and try to bring down America. They may have the right to do that, but you have the right to say, hey, not on my dime and not in my company. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you work for me if you turned against your country in the way these people are turning against their country. So let's talk about the politics of it. Politics of it is hurting the Democrats terribly. John Fetterman understands that. Some people understand that. Helping the Republicans, it's helping Trump enormously because the vast majority of Americans don't want to see cars burning, offices burning, riots spreading to Chicago, to New York, to other places. They don't want that. And if it requires bringing in a deterrent National Guard, they're fine with that. I'm fine with that. And right now it's working. The very presence of the National Guard seems to be having a positive impact. No, for some people it may stimulate violence. Yeah, that's always a trade-off. But for the majority of people, they see National Guard people. They say, let's stop breaking windows. Let's stop closing offices. Let's prevent. The preventive state talks about this a lot in my book. Let's prevent what happened in Minnesota. Governor Walz allowing that to happen. Let's prevent what happened after Rodney King, after George Floyd. Let's prevent these riots from spreading. Let's prevent these rioters from taking over, because that's what they want to do. And if we can prevent it by preventively bringing in troops, nobody's firing shots. Nobody is doing anything that hurts people at the moment. It's saving lives. Now, you might say, oh, gee, that it's at too high a cost because you shouldn't be federalizing the guard. Yeah, you can. Under the statute, you can. And the governor is, the word in the statute is should, not may, should be authorizing this as well and should be working cooperatively. So this is completely partisan and political. Gavin Newsom wants to run for president, not going to win, but he wants to run for president. And for him, it's no lose. Doesn't matter whether he loses in court or wins. Big deal. If he loses in court, he blames it on the judges. If he wins, he's a great hero. Uh, the same thing is true all over the place. At Harvard, they're bringing suits. At Harvard, bring suits. If they lose, hey, it's the court's fault. And the people who make the decision for Harvard are heroes. The president of Harvard got a 7-minute standing ovation for fighting back. But I know deep down the president of Harvard would like to negotiate, would like to get a resolution of this. I'm sure that Governor Newsom would also like to see if this can be resolved peacefully. But nobody wants to sit down and negotiate with Trump because nobody wants to give Trump a victory. And, Trump loves victories. Victory has many parents and failure is an orphan. And so right now, the inclination is always against settlement and negotiation. I'm going to write a column called The Art of the Deal. That's the name of Trump's first book. Same editor as me, same time as me. We actually they worked on the cover of both of our books together. But my column is The Art of the Deal is dead because nobody's negotiating anymore. Even Iran now, we're seeing they're getting tough. They're getting belligerent. They're calling Trump's bluff. They're saying to Donald Trump, you're a paper tiger. We're not going to negotiate. We're not going to stop enriching. We're not going to stop developing a nuclear bomb. We're going to say we're stopping, but we're not going to actually do it. And you're not going to do anything about it because you're a paper tiger. You're a bluffer. And hopefully Trump will respond to that in the way he has promised to respond. That if Iran doesn't capitulate and make the kind of deal that will forever prevent them from developing nuclear weapons, the only other option is a military option in the United States and Israel. Without the United States putting a single boot on the ground, without endangering a single American soldier, can destroy Iran's nuclear capacities forever. Maybe they'd have to do it again in 10 years. But what the lessons of Iran, the lessons of Iraq, the lessons of Syria is that once you've bombed their reactors, they don't build them again. When Iraq had the Osiris reactor destroyed with one death, they said they would rebuild it. They never did. When Syria had its reactor destroyed, maybe no deaths and maybe one or two, we're not sure, but a very, very, very tiny amount. They never rebuilt it again. They never went to North Korea and said, send us a new nuclear reactor so we can build our nuclear arsenal. And I think the same thing is true. I also think that if the United States and Israel together were to destroy Iran's nuclear capacity, that might result in regime change. And that would be the best thing that could happen to the world. If you had one wish for bringing about peace in the world today, that wish would be regime change in Iran. If the mullahs are overthrown and if a democratic government can be installed in Iran, a democratic republic that respects human rights, which the vast majority of Iranians want, that would be the end of Iranian influence all through the Middle East. Israel has destroyed Iran's influence in Lebanon, in the Gaza Strip. They're destroying it in Yemen. But they still have an enormous amount of influence around the entire region. They have influence today in Qatar. But if there's regime change and a democracy is installed, and it doesn't have to be a perfect democracy. Look, the Shah was a lot better than what came after the Shah. The United States made a terrible mistake, attributable largely to President Carter, to topple the Shah regime. Just the devil is often better than the devil that comes in after that. Even in Iraq today, is Iraq better off today than it was under Saddam Hussein? Reasonable question about that, and I think reasonable people could think the answer to that is no, that they might have even been better off, or the world might have been better off. Because remember, Saddam Hussein wasn't exporting his violence; he was using it against his people, much like the head of Syria was using it against his people. But that destroyed the credibility of President Obama. Obama said, as president of the United States, I'm telling you, there's a red line, Assad, and if you cross that red line, and if you use poison gas on your people, We will intervene. And what happened? He used poison gas, and Obama chickened out and lost his credibility, lost the credibility of the United States, and probably encouraged the growth of these terrorist groups and America enemies. So it's absolutely crucially important that America keep its promises. And so far, Donald Trump has kept his promises. And I think the reason he is so successful in making deals is he hasn't yet had to carry out any of his threats. But if he's put against the wall, he darn well better carry out his threats. Otherwise, his threats will become less powerful and less valuable. And so there are three issues. Number one, can he get a really, really good deal from Iran? Now, what I don't want, and what nobody wants, what Israel doesn't want, what America doesn't want, what nobody wants, is a bad deal, which Trump then says is a great deal. You know, Trump has the ability to call everything the greatest ever. And maybe it will be, and that would be great, and I would support it. But if he gets a bad deal and calls it a good deal, everybody will see through that. It's just the way everybody saw through Obama's bad deal, which he called a good deal. So there are three options. He gets a good deal, a really good deal. And it involves America being able to inspect, destroy all the ability to create a nuclear arsenal under the pretense of it being civilian. There's no pretense of civilian. It's fake. We know that. But we know that they're trying underground to do this. We know because Israel stole their archives. And when they were denying that they were making a bomb, there was conclusive evidence that they were making a bomb. So that's option one. A really, really, really good deal. It's a chance we'll get it. But in order to get it, Trump has to persuade Iran that he really means it, that military action will be taken if there is no deal. Okay, so let's assume there is no deal, or it's not a good deal. Then the options are Israel is allowed to go to it by itself. The United States says you have the green light, you can do it, and we'll protect you in case Iran tries to respond by sending rockets. We'll do what we did last time. That's option two. A pretty good option. I think that Netanyahu would like that option. It would result in major but not complete destruction of Iran's nuclear capacities, and it would not result probably in regime change. The third option is the United States and Israel together, without the United States putting a boot on the ground, but with the help of the United States logistically and militarily, but without soldiers on the ground, together, creating a situation where they can go to every aspect of Iran's nuclear arsenal capacity, including the use of bunker busting bombs, B-52s, which could penetrate deep into the areas where Iran is developing the weapons. They can do it, by the way, with minimum civilian casualties, because, you know, although we think probably there's some nuclear development underneath hospitals and schools in Tehran, that's not where the major areas of development are. The major areas of development are outside the big cities. They're in areas with very, very small, relatively small civilian populations. And so the United States and Israel could do that, and they could do it together. Those are the options, and I hope that the United States and President Trump pursues those options with great vigor. I know there are many people on his team that want him to do that, but there are people on his team that don't want him to do it. We don't know what Vance's position is. We know what Rubio's position is. We don't know what whether he's listening to Tucker Carlson, who is really pro-Iran and pro-Russian. You know, there's a lot of controversy going on within the Trump administration, and I think all good people hope it gets resolved in favor of the Rubio wing and against the Tucker Carlson wing. But we have to wait and see what happens. The Tucker Carlson wing will weaken President Trump on all fronts because it will make him into a paper tiger, and that's the last thing that Trump needs, the last thing America needs, and I think it's the last thing we'll get. I know Donald Trump well enough to know that he doesn't want to be perceived that way, because he is not that way. He wants to be perceived as a winner. Now, what should Netanyahu do if President Trump says, no, I forbid you from attacking the Iranian nuclear facilities, even though the deal we're getting or have gotten is not a very good one. That's going to be the hardest question for Netanyahu. He doesn't want to become Zelensky. On the other hand, if Israel alone could totally destroy Iran's nuclear reactor and get a great victory the way it got a great victory against Hezbollah with the walkie talkies, then President Trump will side with them because he loves a winner. Again, victory has many parents, and failure is an orphan. So we'll wait and see. But this is a crucial time for the Trump administration, just as it's a crucial time right now for what's going on in the streets of Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and it will spread. It will spread. And my feeling is that, and in my book I make the argument that the preventive state authorizes the president of the United States to take preventive actions, to see that the riots don't spread, to understand, to face reality and understand that these riots are not about immigration. They're not about Israel. They're about destroying the United States. And the president of the United States has the full authority and power to protect his ICE agents. Consider what Newsom is basically saying. He's saying don't send in troops, even though ICE agents are endangered. Just get rid of the ICE agents. Just pull them back. No, the United States government, under the supremacy clause of the Constitution, has the absolute right to send in ICE agents to arrest people who are in violation of federal law. So that's a given. Given is ICE agents can effectuate the arrests of illegal immigrants. And if that's a given, and if they're being attacked, then it's a given that the United States has the right to send in troops to protect its ICE agents. What's the response to that? I guarantee you the Supreme Court will not disallow that. And so Governor Newsom and others are just pandering. They know they can't win this case. It would really destroy the supremacy clause if a court were to rule, well, maybe the answer is to stop sending in ICE agents and stop making arrests of people who are here illegally. No, you can't do that. That's up to the president. The president has the power to see that the laws be faithfully executed, and those laws include immigration laws. And if it's proper for ICE agents to be arresting people in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, and if they're being attacked and they're being doxxed and they're being threatened, then obviously it's within the power of the president to send in federal troops to protect them, to protect federal buildings, and to prevent riots from spreading to other areas where federal agents and federal interests will be compromised. So this is an easy issue legally, and I predict that the court will find it an easy issue. We'll probably go 9-0. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be 6-3, but it will be a clear majority in favor of the power of the president under various provisions. The Constitution itself, I'm not going to get into the details of which statute, what statute, whether it has to be invoked, it doesn't have to be invoked. The president has the authority to protect ICE agents, to protect federal buildings. And if the governor and the mayor can't do it, then the president has the power to send in federal troops to do it. So far, it's been working. The only thing that hasn't been working is the perception. If you turn on CNN, it sounds like the Gestapo is occupying peaceful Poland. If you read the New York Times, you're getting a totally distorted view of what's going on. And so flip the channels and make up your own mind. And while you're flipping the channels, tune into this channel, because you're always going to get the truth here. And again, please, 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 we have to respond to the Harvard Club. We have to respond to the New York Times. And the best way to do it is to buy and read my book, The Preventive State. And I think you'll learn something. You'll see it's relevant to everything that we're discussing today. It's relevant to martial law. It's relevant to sending in the troops. It's relevant to Iran. It's relevant to terrorism. It deals with all of these issues. So please, I urge you to read it. I wish I could give it out free to everybody, because I don't care. I don't do this for the money. Obviously, I do it because I care deeply. This is my most important of my 57 books, working on my 58th. And I really want you to read it. So if you support me and like my show, please get The Preventive State. So thanks. Okay, let's turn to letters. How do you determine that someone is anti Semitic? I presume it's not anti Semitic to criticize Israel for killing innocent Palestinians. How do you differentiate between anti Semitism and just criticism of Israel? First of all, Israel is the most criticized country in the face of the earth, including by Israelis. So you can criticize Israel all you want. You can criticize Netanyahu. Just don't apply a double standard. Just say about Israel what you would say about other countries. Say about Jews what you would say about other people. Single standard is not anti Semitic. You can be as critical as you want. I'm critical of the United States. I'm critical no matter who the president is. I love my country, and that's why I criticize it constructively. I consider myself a constructive critic of every institution that I'm associated with. And so apply a single standard, and you're not an anti Semite. Tomorrow is the anniversary of Nicole and Ron killed by O.J. Simpson. Nobody framed him. I agree with you on most other things. So you don't necessarily have to disagree with me on this. I'm not telling you what I think because I'm not allowed to as a lawyer. But hypothetically, it's certainly possible that O.J. Simpson was guilty as hell and was also framed. Um, Innocent people are framed and guilty people are framed. The theory of the defense in the case was that the police believed that he was guilty and that he would escape justice, and so they enhanced the evidence by pouring blood from O.J. Simpson's test tube and the test tube of the victims onto O.J. Simpson's sock and created a piece of evidence. The jury believed that. That's why they acquitted. They didn't acquit because they thought he was innocent. They acquitted because they believed that evidence had been tampered with. There are cases now in which that is also being alleged, tampering with evidence. I'm involved in one of them, the Ranieri case, where the government, according to experts, switched the date on a photograph to make the young woman in the photograph appear to be below the age of consent, which she was in fact above the age of consent. So, this is something that happens, and it's very important that we take into account the possibility that the police can sometimes, individual policemen, can act corruptly and sometimes for good motives, thinking that they have the right person. They don't want that person to get away with it. So they enhance the evidence. And that's what the theory that resulted in acquittal was in the O.J. Simpson case. Okay, this is once in a while I have to read these things. This Jew is a liar. Why don't you just call me a liar? Don't say this Jew is a liar. Me being a Jew has nothing to do with whether I'm lying or telling the truth, unless you believe that all Jews lie. And we have a name for people like that, and I'm calling you that name. Okay. Um, he's right. It all depends on the channel you're watching. Isn't that a shame that we have no Walter Cronkites and that you have to flip the channels? But look, we have the channels to flip. We have hundreds of channels now, and we have thousands of technological ways of getting at access to information. So use them as much as possible. George Soros has a lot to do with the riots. I don't know whether that's true or not. Have you ever condemned George Soros? I condemn George Soros all the time. I think he's one of the most dangerous people in America. And I have stated over and over again that condemning George Soros, who happened to have been born to Jewish parents, is not anti Semitic. I condemn George Soros. As far as I'm concerned, he's not Jewish. He is technically. His parents are Jewish. He's Jewish on his parents' side, but he's hates his Judaism. He's done everything to deny it and rebuke it, and to rebuke Israel. So, yes, I've condemned George Soros and will continue to do so, and largely because I think he's terrible for America. He has funded all these so-called progressive district attorneys that have made our streets less safe, and I condemn him. I'll continue to condemn him. Sadly, Dersh has been increasingly turning into a grumpy old man, full of grievances. He begins and ends each episode with a tirade against Harvard, the institution to which he owes his career. Don't bite the hand that's been feeding you, Dersh. Disgraceful. I don't owe my career to Harvard. I did more for Harvard than Harvard did for me. And we had a mutually beneficial association. I don't owe Harvard anything. And I've never been loyal to institutions. I'm loyal to the truth. I'm loyal to the Constitution. I'm loyal to my heritage, but I'm not loyal to Harvard or Yale or Brooklyn College. When they do good things, I support them. When they do bad things, I attack them. Does that make me into a grouch? Well, Groucho is my favorite comedian. I met with Woody Allen the other day, and we exchanged Groucho stories. I think if you ever really have nothing to do at night, go on YouTube and watch some of the old Groucho performances, whether it be on You Bet Your Life or anything else. You will laugh hysterically. There's never anybody but as funny as Groucho Marx. I think Woody Allen comes a close second, but if you ask Woody Allen, he doesn't believe it. He thinks Groucho is much funnier than he is. Did I just hear you say Congress is above the law? Really seriously? No, Congress isn't above the law. The Constitution gives Congress authority to do things that nobody else can do. So, yes, in some respects, they're above the law because the law puts them above the law. A member of Congress cannot be prosecuted or questioned about something that he did on the floor of Congress. That gives him special immunity. The president has that immunity. Judges have that immunity. Does it place them above the law? No. The law gives them special powers that other citizens don't have. Sometimes those powers are abused, like when Congress had the ability to trade stocks on inside information. Many of them made fortunes on it. That's being somewhat restricted, not enough today. So nobody should be above the law, but sometimes the law creates categories which put some people above statutes or above judicial decisions, but it's the law which authorizes that. So everyone should operate within the law. See you next week. And again, please, please, please buy this book. So we send a message. By next week, I would love to be able to say we have 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people bought my book as a response to the Harvard Club canceling me. So Harvard Club, it didn't work. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.